Hi YouTube. Today I'm going to show you some custom cards that I think are the solution for the Dark Magician deck not being competitive enough in current Yu-Gi-Oh! Well, actually not being competitive at all in Yu-Gi-Oh! So these cards were created with realism and balance in mind to make DM competitive, while also not being easily splashable in every deck. So these were my two criterias to limit my imagination while creating these cards. Fairness and restriction in the archetype. I don't like cards that can be abused in any other deck. So let's begin with the current status and the nature of a DM deck. You see, DM is a deck that relies on spells and traps that only work in conjunction with other spells and traps, and with a vanilla monster, in this case, Dark Magician. It gets even worse because some cards need Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl to work properly. That means that we need several specific cards at the same time for this deck to do something. This deck does not have a meaningful 1 card or 2 card combo because almost all the cards don't do anything by themselves. So that means we need to assemble our board by searching a lot of pieces, and since the deck doesn't have a lot of searching power, we rely extensively on our opening hand, practically our entire opening hand. That condition of not having a lot of searchers, but needing a lot of pieces to work, is what makes a deck to break. It's what makes a deck breaky. You practically need to open your full hand with a very specific combination of cards to build a decent DM board. To make this a little more intuitive, let's look at this. Okay, this is what an ideal DM board looks like. We have Dragon Knight, we have Circle and Iso, forming what we call the ultimate DM triangle. Dragon Knight protects our back row. That's very important. We live and die because of these spells and traps. And Iso protects Dragon Knight. We also have Dark Magician in Grave, so we can revive him with Iso and trigger Circle to target and vanish 1 card in our opponent's field. That's normally the classic interaction with the Dark Magician triangle. But we also have DMG in Grave, so we can use combination for an Omni Negate once per turn. This is a total of 1 and 2 interactions with a pretty good protection, with a pretty good fortress. It's nothing crazy, but it is a solid board. I know there may be better boards, using out of archetypes cards, but in this case, I'm circumscribing to just archetypal cards, to just Dark Magician cards. All right, now, which are the cards needed to build this board right here? What do we need to get to this board? Well, here they are. These 6 cards. These are absolutely necessary, and all the other cards in Dark Magician have value just because it can get us to these cards. In case you don't know, we need Timaeus, this dragon here. We needed to fuse into Dragon Knight or into Dragoon or our boss monster. Notice there are 6 cards and none can be missing. There's no room for error, and we only open 5 cards in our opening hand. That means that we need a lot of searching power to obtain all these cards consistently while going +1 in the process. We need 3 different spells and traps, and we need 3 different monsters. Now let's see if Dark Magician have enough of that searching power. Let's begin with Illusion of Chaos. This is our most recent support. It made a big fuss, and rightly so. It is our only monster searcher. It can search for almost any monster in our deck, but normally you will search these 3 cards. You will search Rod, Timaeus, and Souls. By the way, notice the yellow border in some cards. That's indicating that these are the necessary cards that we just saw above. I want you to appreciate our first bottleneck. We need 3 different monsters, and we can only search for 1. So next, we have Magician's Rod to the left here. This is our only spell and trap searcher. We actually have another one, is if I'm not mistaken, Dark Magic Inheritance. but it needs a lot of setup to search spell or trap. It needs to banish 2 spells that you don't need in your graveyard, so you can do the searching effect. Practically, we have only Rod. Rod can search for practically any spell and trap, right? But normally you will search for these right here. I want you to appreciate our second bottleneck, because we need 3 different spells and traps and we can only search for 1. Last but not least, we have Magician Souls to the right. It's responsible for special summoning 1 and only 1 of our magicians, and we need both of our magicians. This is the third bottleneck. So, as you can see, for you to gain access to our 6 necessary cards, we need to rely on luck to open one of very few 5-card combinations. And even like that, you will need more luck to draw or hit with circle the 6th piece, the last piece, because we need 6 and we only have 5 cards. What do I mean with this? Well, let's finish this explanation by showing an example. Here, let's start from the right. In the bottom line are our necessary monsters. You can either open all of them in your opening hand or gain access to 2 of them through Illusion of Chaos. For example, you will search Timaeus, and with Souls, you will special summon Dark Magician. But at least one of the three monsters you need has to be in your opening hand, because you have no more searchers. We need 3 and we only have 2 searchers. I'm considering Souls a searcher, but you know what I mean. This is pretty bad. But now let's go to the left side. Here, the spell and trap side. Here we have our necessary spells and traps. And this is even worse. We need 3 and we only have 1 searcher, Rod. Let's say you search with Rod, you search Circle, and you have in your opening hand 1 other spell or trap. Let's say Miso or Navigation, it doesn't matter. What's the problem? That you are still missing the last piece. In this case, combination. But you have already spent all 5 cards in your opening hand. You can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You will miss the 6th piece. To synthesize everything, for you to build a decent DM board, you need your entire opening hand to be a perfect combination with almost no room for error. Not 3, not 4, 5 specific cards in your opening hand. That's outrageous, man. I mean, this is not realistic to pull off consistently. Most meta decks, or competitive decks at least, only need 2 or 3 as too much to get their board, build or have something going on. But the worst thing is that is not even enough, because you're still missing the last piece. It's not even enough. You have a perfect hand. You will still missing the last piece. Combination in this example. It's crazy. It's not in the nature of this deck to build its board in 1 turn. It's not in the nature. You need 2 or more. So for you to obtain that last piece, using only cards from the archetype, you will need to rely on luck. How? Well, by searching, for example, Soul Servant instead of Circle. Let's assume that you have the 2 magicians already. Soul Servant will stack Circle and will be able to draw 2, since you have the 2 magicians, Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl. Soul Servant will be able to draw 2. You will draw Circle that you stack on top of your deck, and you will have a second draw, right? That second random draw has to be a combination. If it is not, then your other chance is by activating Circle, the circle you just draw, and expecting to see combination between the top 3 cards in your deck. So as you can see, this is ridiculous. There is no way to complete the board within the archetype. Now, to finish this segment, just imagine that DM got new support, right? New support came out and allows us to build this board right here with 100% consistency. The new support makes us to build this all the time. We never fail. It will be awesome, but I mean, let's be real. You wouldn't think that this is going to dominate and win every YCS or the World Championship. It's not unrealistic to ask for better consistency in building a board like this, because it's not an unfair board. So it's not too much to ask. I don't know what Konami is thinking with Dark Magician. I really don't know. Nevertheless, Let's see how I try to fix all these problems with some custom cards. So let's begin. The first group of cards, I call them the indispensable cards. These are the ones that I understand are absolutely needed in an actual DM deck. They help with the problems we saw earlier, that is consistency and searching ability. The first one is Magician's Sleight of Hand. This is a normal spell card that reads like this. Return up to 2 cards from your hand to the deck. Then add that same number of cards that mentions Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl from your deck to your hand, except Magician's Sleight of Hand. You can banish this card from your graveyard. Then target one of your banished cards, except Magician's Sleight of Hand. Return it to the graveyard. You can only use each effect of Magician's Sleight of Hand once per turn. This is like a Magical Mallet and Illusion of Chaos combined. This card allows us to fix our breaking hands by returning the cards that we don't need to our deck and searching the necessary cards that we really need to start building our board or to react to the situation we have. The drawback is that we go -1 in the process. Also, its graveyard effect will recover our vanished cards, so if your DM gets vanished, it's not the end of the world, or if you want to recycle Soul Servant to draw again, or recycle other cards that have graveyard effect, you can do it with this card. Okay, so let's go to the next one. This is Soul's Navigation. This is a trap card, a normal trap card that says send 1 Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl from your deck to your graveyard. Add 1 monster that mentions the send monster from your deck to your hand. If Dark Magical Circle is on the field, you can activate this card from your hand. If you control Dark Magician except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can vanish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 face-up card your opponent controls, negate its effects until the end of this turn. You can only use 1 Soul's Navigation effect per turn and only once that turn. Okay, so the purpose of this card is to make possible setting up in 1 turn Magician's Combination and all the cards that need both Magicians to work at their full potential. This card is another monster searcher to help IOC and relieve that bottleneck, while at the same time sends 1 of the Magicians to the graveyard as a cost. That means that even if it is negated, 1 of the Magicians will be in the grave, and you want that. So with only this card, we can potentially have access to both Magicians, since you can send 1 of the Magicians with this card cost and search for, let's say, Souls. Then Souls sends the other Magician and special summon 1 of them. Also, its graveyard effect is like Magician Navigation, allows us to have another interaction in the next turn and negate something that is face up in your opponent's field. So I made this card a trap card, so its graveyard effect could be a quick effect because spell cards cannot activate in your opponent's turn in the graveyard, But I added the condition of being able to be activated from hand if Circle is on the field, so it can be used effectively to build our board in turn 1. Alright, so let's go to the third card. That's Magician's Misdirection. This is our Link 1 that we so desperately need. This is a Dark Spellcaster monster, 800 attack. It's a Link 1. It needs 1 level 3 or lower Spellcaster monster. When this card is Link summoned, you can reveal from your deck 2 spell trap cards that mentions Dark Magician with different names. Your opponent randomly picks 1 to add to your hand. Also, place the remaining card on top of your deck. If this card is tributed, you can draw 1 card. You can only use each effect once per turn. Okay, this card will help Rod a lot in searching our spells and traps. It allows us to potentially search 2 spell traps since Rod can only search for 1. Remember, we need a way to access 3 essential spells and traps. Rod 1 and discard the other 2. The way it works is by your opponent adding 1 of the 2 spells traps you reveal, you will be receiving 1 from your opponent, and you have to draw or add the second one that's gonna be on top of your deck. So ideally, you do it by activating Circle. That's why it's better to use Rod first to search Circle, then Link summon this card from Rod, and you activate Circle. So you will add the second card that is on top of your deck. At the end, if nothing is negated, 1 rod equals this monster and 3 spells and traps. That's a +3. Also, in case rod is negated, this card will grant us some value, because at least you're going to add one of 2 cards that you selected. Unlike Artemis, that's the link 1 monster we use right now to send rod to the graveyard so we can recycle it, and that card does nothing. Besides, this card has synergy with Rod's graveyard effect, since Rod will tribute this card to recycle itself, and then you can draw 1 card. So yeah, these 3 cards that we just saw, for me, are the most essential cards. Now let's go to the next category that I call it cherry on top. These are tech cards that can be very oppressive or help a lot in most situations. They're not essential, but very good to strengthen our board, offensively and defensively. First of all, Servant of Chaos. So this is a dark spellcaster monster, is level 6 and has 2100 and 1600 attack and defense. The effect reads like this. You can special summon this card from your hand by revealing in your hand 1 card that mentions Dark Magician except Servant of Chaos. But you cannot activate cards or effects of cards with that name for the rest of this turn. When summoned this way, you can add 1 Chaos Ritual monster from your deck to your hand. During your main phase, you can ritual summon 1 Chaos Ritual monster from your hand by tributing monsters you control whose total levels exactly equal its level. If this card is used for the ritual summon of a Chaos monster, it can be treated as a level 7 or 8 monster. You can only use each effect of Servant of Chaos once per turn. Okay, so this card is a Chaos support that connects DM with Chaos. This makes running rituals more viable, finally. Picture this card as an Apprentice Illusion Magician and Timaeus United Dragon mixture, but for Chaos rituals in terms of mechanics, since it can special summon itself and search a card like Apprentice, and it can ritual summon a monster instead of fusion summoning like Timaeus. It can special summon itself without losing card advantage, but you have to run other DM cards to reveal, and you won't be able to activate them that turn. These conditions make this card very unlikely to be abused in other decks, because the ideal card that you want to reveal to special summon this card is a trap card, a trap DM card. Because anyway, you wouldn't be able to activate a trap card that's in your hand in that same turn. So other decks won't run Dark Magician trap cards. I never seen that. Just to summon this card, they wouldn't do that. Also, I linked the searching effect with the summoning condition to make it even more restrictive to just Dark Magician. This card can, more or less single-handedly ritual summon Magician of Chaos, for example. That's a Chaos monster that is very, very important. I mean, it's very good. That's a very oppressive card if you have other spells and traps to support him. Having Magician of Chaos on the field is incredibly strong. It has a soft once per turn pop and is considered Dark Magician on field and in graveyard, which means it can be revived several times in one turn, and the pop effect will be reactivated every time the card touches the field. But the problem is that Magician of Chaos is very inconsistent and inefficient to summon. That's why people forget about that card. But Servant of Chaos is the solution to the problems that makes us avoid running our ritual monsters in a DM deck. It searches and ritual summons all by itself. Also is a level 6, and that's important because it can help with rank 6 plays that I have some that I will show you guys in a moment. So the next card will be Ever Faithful Companions. So this is a continuous spell card that says when this card is activated, you can discard 1 Palladium monster, draw 2 cards. Once per turn, if Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl are destroyed by battle or card effects, you can special summon 1 Palladium monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard. And now the third effect. Apply the following effects on spellcaster type monsters, based on the number of Palladium monsters with different names, on the field and graveyards. 1 Palladium name, your spellcasters cannot be targeted in your graveyard by your opponent's card effects. 2 Palladium names, your spellcaster monsters cannot be vanished on your field by your opponent's card effects. You can only activate 1 Ever Faithful Companions per turn. Okay, so this is a defensive card that grants more value on running Palladium monsters in our deck. Since one of the main problems of running Palladium monsters is that they can be bricks. But, with this card, you can unbrick yourself by drawing 2. So It basically substitutes this card and your Bricky Paladin monster for 2 random cards from your deck, while at the same time it grants protection thanks to its third effect, since you will have a Paladin name in your graveyard already because you discarded it to activate this card. This card protects our graveyard from cards like Bestials, Shufflers, Callby, Diddy Crow, you name it, anything that targets our monsters in our graveyard. Or in case we have 2 Paladin names, let's say we have Mana and Mahad on the field or in the graveyards, it will protect our monsters on the field from cards like Mirror Jade, Kashtira, or anything that will try to vanish our monsters. Also, the second effect protect us from being OTK due to granting the iconic Paladin floating effects that when they are destroyed by battle card effect, they special summon their respective magician. This effect will be granted to Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl. So it's like they have that effect now. That way habilitates even easier the third protection effect because you will be summoning and bringing a lot of Paladin names. That also will help you with the OTKs because you will be constantly summoning bodies to stop the opponent from OTK you. So it can go like this. Your opponent destroys Dark Magician. You use this card to summon mana. The mana is destroyed. And mana effects activate and she summons DMG and so on. In that little interaction, you already have a DM, DMG, and mana. That's a draw 3 with a Soul Servant. So, okay, that's the defensive card. Now, let's go to the other category that is the going second cards. These ones are going to help us with another great weakness in DM decks, that is going second. We are horrible going second. The first card in our going second strategy is going to be the Apprentice Magicians. This is a Dark Spellcaster rank 6 XC monster, 2400 and 2100 attack and defense. It requires 2 level 6 Spellcaster monsters and has the following effect. You can detach 1 material from this card, draw 2 cards. You can only use this effect as the Apprentice Magicians once per turn. A Spellcaster type XC monster that was summoned using this card on the field as material gains this effect. Once per turn, if Dark Magician is normal or special summoned to your field, except during the damage step, you can target 1 card your opponent controls and vanish it. Okay, so this is a proper rank 6 Spellcaster with the intention to rank up to Ebon Illusion Magician. It recovers card advantage by its first effect of drawing 2 cards. Because normally you will go -1 to make a rank 6 with Apprentice and DMG. Apprentice discard 1 card to special summon itself, and you have to use another card to summon DMG. So this effect of drawing makes you recover your losses in terms of card advantage, and neutral. Also, when you rank up to Ebon, it grants him a circle-like effect, making it possible to vanish 2 cards. One when you summon DM, and another one when you attack with DM, you will trigger Ebon Inherit effect. If you have Circle on field, you can banish 3 cards in total because Circle is another vanish. I think it's a great replacement for Naruto, that is our only rank 6 spellcaster currently in the game by now. I mean in the TCG because Mighty Magician Girl is a OCG exclusive card because of legal disputes and that. So that's the rank 6, and our next going second card is Black Chaos Offering. This is a ritual spell that says this card can be used to ritual summon any Chaos Ritual monster from your hand or graveyard. You must also tribute monsters from your hand or field whose total levels equal or exceed the level of the ritual monster you ritual summon. If your opponent controls 2 or more monsters and you control no monsters, you can also use monsters your opponent controls as tribute. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this card's activation. You can only activate 1 Black Chaos Offering per turn. Alright, so this is our ritual spell that finally can ritual summon ritual monsters from the graveyard also. But besides that, and more importantly, under a specific condition, it's a super poly-like card, but for ritual summoning instead of fusion. It can tribute any opponent monsters with a level. So no XC or links, but you know, that's good enough. It will tribute any opponent monsters to ritual summon or ritual monsters in our hand or in our graveyard. Besides, just like Super Poly, it cannot be responded upon. So it's a great board breaker, really. Now, which ritual monster is great to summon with these while going second? Let's find out. That's our next card, Sorcerer of Black Chaos. Well, Sorcerer of Black Chaos is a dark spellcaster, ritual and pendulum monster with 2800 attack, 2600 defense. With a pendulum effect that says during your main phase, you can add one chaos ritual spell from your deck or graveyard to your hand. Then return this card to the hand. You can only use this effect of Sorcerer of Black Chaos once per turn. And the monster effect reads like this. You can ritual summon this card with chaos form. It must be either ritual summon or pendulum summon from your hand once per turn. Quick effect. You can place this card in your pendulum summon, and if you do, vanish one card on the field face down. Then, if you place this ritual summon card in the pendulum zone, you can add one spell from your deck to your hand. So, its pendulum effect allows us to search any chaos ritual spell, including Black Chaos Offering, the card we previously saw, the custom card with our ritual spell. While at the same time, going back to the hand, making possible to ritual summon this card from hand, meeting the conditions to the Super Poly-like effect of our new ritual spell of not having any monster. And if the opponent has, obviously, two or more monsters. On the field, it has a Chaos Scepter Blast effect that it can banish a card face down. That's one of the best, without targeting, by the way, is one of the best removals. And going back to the pendulum sum to recycle itself in the next turn if you already use his searching effect, because the searching effect is hard once per turn. Also, at the same time, it will add a spell card from your deck to have resources to keep breaking your opponent's board. But this is only in the case you previously ritual summoned this card, not pendulum summon. That way, this benefit of adding a spell won't be granted in pendulum decks that has nothing to do with DM and just pendulum summon this card for the vanishing effect. Also, if other decks simply pendulum summon this card, they need to take the extra step to remove a scale to be available for this card to activate the vanishing effect. So we finished our most important cards. Now I have a couple of cards that I call the Link Evolution cards. These are the ones that I made just for fun, inspired by the new concept of Link Evolution that the new Infernoble cards premiere, like Charlemagne. This Link Evolution mechanic is when a Link 1 monster needs a boss or high investment monster as material, like an evolution of that monster. So I try to keep the same standards as the other custom cards, but I'm not 100% sure these cards are realistic or fair, and they may change in the future. So let's see these last cards. First of all is the Ultimate Wizard. This is the evolution of Dark Magician. So it's a dark spellcaster Link 1 monster with 2500 attack with a left arrow. This is important, you will see later. That requires one monster whose original name is Dark Magician. Original name is Dark Magician, so it can only be Link summoned with the vanilla monster. This card's name becomes Dark Magician while on the field or in the graveyard. Gains 100 attack for each spell trap on the field and in the graveyards. Once per turn, you can vanish one or 3 spell trap cards from your hand, field, or graveyard. Apply this effect depending on the number of spell trap cards vanished. 1. Destroy one monster your opponent controls. 3. Destroy all spells and traps your opponent controls. Okay, as I said, this is the evolution of Dark Magician. It has an attack boost since Dark Magician is supposed to be the ultimate wizard in terms of attack and defense, and also has an inbuilt Thousand Knives or Dark Magic attack effect by banishing spells and traps. The Link arrow is important to activate a certain custom card that I'll show you in a minute. Next, we have the Greatest Disciple. It's a dark spellcaster Link 1 monster with the arrow to the right. It has 2000 attack, requires a monster whose original name is Dark Magician Girl, only the OG. This card's name becomes Dark Magician Girl while on the field or in the graveyard. Gains 100 attack for each spellcaster monster on the field and in the graveyards. Once per turn, you can banish 1 or 3 other monsters from your hand, field, or graveyard. Apply this effect depending on the number of monsters banished. 1. Special summon 1 Dark Magician from your hand or deck. 3. Destroy all face-up monsters your opponent controls. So this is the evolution of Dark Magician Girl. It has an attack boost 2, honoring the original effect of Dark Magician Girl, that she has an attack boost effect, and also an inbuilt Sage Stone or Dark Burning attack by banishing monsters as cost. The link arrow is meant to be connected or co-linked with the ultimate wizard that has the link arrow to the left. This is required to activate the next custom card that we're going to see. This is the highest magic. This is a quick play spell card that says during the main phase, if Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl are co-linked on your side of the field, banish those co-linked monsters. Skip your next turn. Also destroy all cards your opponent controls and in their hand. You cannot activate cards or effects the turn you activate this card. So this is the reason for the importance of the arrows in the previous monsters. They need to be co-linked to activate this card. This is the evolution, let's say, of Dark Burning Magic, since it not only destroys all the cards that the opponent controls, but also all the cards in the opponent's hand. But obviously has more drawbacks and restrictions. You cannot activate any card in the turn you activate this card. Also, it can be activated only during the main phase, allowing the opponent to activate at least one card before you can activate this bomb, since the opponent has priority in each phase. Also, you lose your next turn, allowing the opponent to at least draw one card and try again to recover before you can go on with your turn and finish the duel. Decks that have a lot of floating effects or graveyard effects like tournaments are not that affected by this card, but most decks are. So this is the card that, I think is more unfair since the conditions are easily achievable with all the custom cards that we just saw that support. Now, let us watch some replays in Edo Pro to see how these cards work in reality. So as you can imagine, all these cards are scripted in Edo Pro. Links for the cards and the scripts are in the description. Tell me what you think about the current status of DM and what do you guys think about these custom cards and what would you do to make them better or any other ideas you have in the comments below. Thanks for watching.